At Senior, I see you on the call. I know this is something that you are really interested in. So would you want to share your expectations for today's webinar? Hello, Atta. If you are speaking, you're
All
muted.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Can you please hear me? Please, am I audible?
Yeah, I can hear
Yes,
you.
you are.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity. Um, I have quite a very good expectation for this session. I was very happy to see the info and then the email. And looking at
Yeah.
the world today, everything is gradually moving onto the internet, basically the cyber world. And today it means that even if you want to go to bank and you can do that online, you can even sit in your home and then buy food online. Practically, our life is basically moving to online. So what that means that everybody needs to protect themselves online. Like the way you protect yourself in your house, you put a gate or you put a door to protect your identity and then all that. So my expectation here today is that I'm looking forward to actually learn from the industry expert and then to add up to my knowledge as well. So thank you very much for this opportunity.
Thank you, Atta. We're also looking forward to learning that. But for you, I didn't really think of it that way that our lives are basically online. But you've drawn my mind to it. We have a few comments in the comment section. I'll read quickly and then I'll pass over to Howard to begin the session. James says, my expectation is to understand data privacy and how that applies and how to apply that in data analytics. And then Henry says, looking forward to learning how cybersecurity relates to data science. All right. Yeah. So without much ado, I'd like to pass over to Hawa. Hawa, over to you. We're looking forward to learning so much from you, like Ata has said, and we hope that at the end of the session, we'll be able to learn about, and we better understand privacy, AI, and protection. Hawa, your audience, Hawa.
Thank you very much, Connie Love. So again, everyone, it's nice to meet all of you. And Atta, thank you very much. You're very, concise and very detailed as to what you're looking forward to. Just a little bit background about me. I will share my screen in just a second. Um, yeah, okay. So I hope you guys can see my screen, or you can put it in the comments. You don't have to like say anything. I'll be reading the comments if you're not comfortable speaking. Cool. Thank you. So overall, like my name is Hawa Naata. I'm Ghanaian. I was born in Ghana. I came to America when I was about 12 years old, and a lot happened from there. But overall, with like just me seeing where like technology and like AI is like moving, really is what dictated what my position is today, right? So I'm a cybersecurity analyst at the Carnegie Mellon University. But with universities, when it comes to like the way they're structured, most of their fundings, if not all of it, well, let me just say some of their fundings comes from the government, right? So, and part of it is like the Pittsburgh Supercomputing Center, which has different high performance computers. Um, and in a way, well, I think we all know where like the government is right now in the United States, right? Like, so let's say the government, which is the National Science Foundation, they can't fund their own projects. They're like, oh, let's give the money to this university and maybe they can like build the project and we'll just give them the money and track it. So in a way, that's a summary of what the Pittsburgh Supercomputing Center is. And what I do there is just cybersecurity for some of like their interesting computers, right? So you have HubMap, which is it, it maps the human brain, and that comes with different datas, right? And that data that can come from that would be human data. So you're looking at um again, they need to collect your information specifically outside of what they're scanning. per your like your mind, your nervous system, and so on and so forth. So they're collecting your name, your address, social security. If you're in America, some of like the most sensitive data here is the social security, which is most of the things that you use for like applying for a house, getting a bank, applying for universities, and many more things. It's like an identity for you. Okay, so again, Connie Love also mentioned what the topic is, right? Like the topic is like cybersecurity essentials for data professionals. And overall, I don't want you guys to think that I don't want to tell you guys what to do or what to think, right? But overall, like this entire presentation is specifically designed for anyone that handles data. You don't have to be in the sector of like a data professional or like a data scientist, um, or analytics per se. But really, it just aligns with like anyone that handles data overall within their company or like going through school and so on and so forth. Okay, so to begin, I wanted to start with like why it matters, right? So my reason or overall for what I see as to like the reason why like talking about like why equipping yourself with like cybersecurity when it comes to like interacting with data is because again, we need to keep in mind that like data equals value. And on top of that, there's risks. And so like the small actions that you take equate to like a huge aspect of like security. So it impacts security. So just think of it like if I'm handling data, I'm the first step to a contribution of how most of like the infrastructure comes together, right? Because if you're like an engineer, you also kind of understand like you probably need data to like bring things together to complete the product. So things like ChatGPT, Claude AI, Mythos. I'm gonna dive into Mythos, Anthropic, in a little bit. Um, but overall, I think you just should keep in mind that cybersecurity is not separate from your job. It's embedded into everything that you already do, right? So in order to deliver the entire message, I wanted to kind of dive into like the things that a data professional would see on a day-to-day basis, right? So to break it down, in a way, you're uploading data sets, their queries, databases, you're building dashboards, and you're sharing results. So tools like Power BI, Tableau, CSV, Excel APIs, SQL, Python, and then we have like Slack, Google Drive, Notion, right? So each has its own category. So let's say you're handling all these data sets. Now, in order for you to like share stuff, you're going through like uploading things through like Google Drive, and then Slack, which in turn you just kind of need to keep in mind as to like, okay, if I'm sharing this data to this person, I just need to keep in mind that like in as much as because in my company there's about like I would just say about like 300 people within just the organization, and overall the university has like so many staff, like probably over 1,000. And in a way, you don't want to share data to someone that's probably in like drama and arts department, or something that's just not relating to you, for the project. So again, really educating yourself on like these aspects of, all right, these are sensitive data that I'm dealing with. Not only do I just need to keep that in mind, I also need to understand, in as much as I'm working with like different people with different departments, how knowledgeable are they regarding to how to like protect sensitive information or be secure when it comes to cybersecurity, right? So in a way, I think you have that in mind, you know to like before you're sharing something on Slack or and Slack is just a communications channel, and there are many others like Monday.com. But some of us probably use like Copilots, Microsoft overall, Google. And just keep in mind that like if you're sharing something maybe to a stakeholder, just make sure it's the right person you're sharing it to, and you're not just like sharing it with like someone that's this does not even concern, and who knows what they're going to do with that data, right? Again, in as much as we work in the same department or the same company, you just never know where people's minds are. So yeah, that's the first thing to keep in mind. I think I may have touched on this, but when it comes to like the real risks in our workflows, right? So we're dealing with like sensitive data. And so think of like exposure, misconfigurations, and permissions. So again, if you're sharing data with someone, the first thing that you should also think about is like what kind of permission am I given to them? So I just shared these slides with Connie Love, and in a way, there's nothing sensitive about this. It's just a presentation. There's transparency there, and so I gave her editor permissions. But if it's something more like detailed as to, oh, this is probably a project I'm working on, I'm not ready to like ex like put it to the public, I'm probably just gonna give her um viewer permissions and probably like an NDA just to make sure, she's not like sharing it without my consent, or maybe someone else that has access to her drive is not like does not have access to it, right? Um, okay, so this slide for is just really touching on like the different types of data, right? And again, I don't want to tell you something you already know. There's a lot of people in this audience, and some may be data professionals, and others may be just getting into it. But again, it's nice to keep in mind the types of data that you're handling, right? So we have like personal data, financial data, health data, internal business data, research data, right? So depends on the company you're working with. They might give you more details as to what like sensitivity means to them. And again, the university that I have, like they've made it very public as to like what's sensitive and what isn't, because again, you're dealing with like students and staff and parents and so much more. And I believe they have like a daycare, so they're now dealing with like actual little babies that are about like 1 years old. So in a way, like they're interacting with like parents more than usual, and not every parent understands how to like handle information, and they're gonna ask questions. So again, it entirely depends on your company. So for instance, like with Blossom Africa, they could really tell you, well, we just really don't want you to share this what is it, like this workshop to other people because we're yet to like put it out in public. And so if you do that, that hinders some project we're working on because this is specifically just for us. Like I hope you guys are kind of gauging where I'm going with this. Um, okay. So when it comes to like the tools that a data professional would use, again, I think I kind of presented it in some previous slides. So we're looking at Google Drive, Power BI, Tableau, and these are just like tools for importing and exporting data and kind of like finding a way to present it in a way where a technical person cannot really like grasp, right? And you have like SQLs, Python really is just like for data processing. Again, I'm gonna share these slides with you guys if you want to just keep it on hand, just to kind of go back on it, right? Like, and then we have like Slack, email, um, and again, all these have different categories. So you have communication, direct data accessing, data processing, you have storage, dashboards, and sharing. So in a way, as a data professional, what you're mostly handling is like you're collecting data and you're inputting data. So for instance, let's say you're working with a cybersecurity engineer or like a security engineer or a network engineer, right? And you need to like analyze something or understand why this is what, or like just look over things in a way that a data professional would. So in a way, you have to find a way to like export that data, and that can look however it wants, right? Because right now, I've given you many examples, but if we're looking at Python and maybe the company just has that data specifically inside Python, you have to find a way to collect that data, right? And then you need to like export it, import it. You need to find a way to like present it to wherever it is that whomever you're presenting it to, or how to secure it. So that's basically the reason for the slide, to just give you an overall understanding as to like um how it is that like a daily routine would be for a data professional, right? So you're collecting and you're exporting, you're presenting, depends on the company overall and what the tasks they're asking of you. Okay, so now we're like getting into like the modern day of things, right? So we see that AI is really coming through with a lots and lots of different tools, which my prediction is that eventually companies are going to adopt AI. And again, when it comes to like higher ed, so universities over here, I think because they deal with a lot of governmental stuff, they're more hesitant. So I would consider them like the last standpoint as to, when like new tools and like AI is coming through, they're just watching, engaging, and just being like, oh, like, yeah, we see it, like we're not sure, but like let's just gauge it. But at some point they're going to be forced to adopt AI, right? So in this instance, for me, I don't really like, well, I mean, parts of my job allows me to like handle data because I mean, I would have to like use Python. I don't use SQL very much, but it appears here and there. Um, Most of what I use would be like the dashboards of like security monitoring tools like CrowdStrike, which is the endpoint detection. Um, we have Nexpose, Duo, all these like MFA tools, right? And like some kind of cloud systems like AWS and so on and so forth. And again, oh, and some communications channels like Gmail and Slack. So we're even like having to, and this is where like universities come in, right? Because they already adapted to these tools. They're like, okay, like we're gonna use Zoom to, communicate and talk with each other. We're gonna use Google to like send emails and stuff like that. But they underestimate the fact that like, well, these are third parties and they can do whatever they want because they are giving their service to us. So again, they need to keep their business going. Hence, if something in technology is happening, they must adopt it. So in a way, you really don't have any control. And I think whatever they're doing kind of makes sense because they're just gauging to see, okay, like how can we try to, like be a part of this without exposing ourselves very much. Um, so in a way, when it comes to like a data professional, and I would say there are many ways it can help us. And I consider myself like as a data professional as well, only because from here to there, as a cybersecurity analyst, you're given certain things that you have to like look and analyze and be like, oh, maybe this tool can help me like solve this problem. Maybe this tool can help me like do this and that. And these are some examples, right? Like you're able to like write SQL queries faster, you're cleaning data expeditiously, generating reports by interacting with the tool. So for instance, like Duo. So Duo is like the MFA software where you have like the push, the text, or the call. And in a way, like the AI tool is just there to give you an assist, right? So if you want to just type it in and be like, hey, I want to generate this tool and this and that, can you help me with how to do it fast? And it's just gonna do that, right? Like, but again, universities are a bit suspicious. So you have to really explain why you're using tools with AI and what kind of information is instilled in it, and also what the company is doing with the data. Right now, I know that like Microsoft Copilots has a tier that allows companies to keep their data personally. So if you like Gemini or like Google Workspace, like you pay for a tier, and then that tier specifically says, well, in order for you to feel secure, all the data is up to you. you're storing it on your own accord, and we're here to just give you the service, which kind of gives some kind of, security to universities or companies. Because again, they're just like we've been dealing with like humans for the past 40 years, and we don't want this new tool to expose us to anything that might hinder our business, but also the humans. Yeah. Okay. So this other slide is to just give you an insight of what AI is, right? So I'm not sure how much of us have interacted with artificial intelligence outside of like the user experience. Because there's also the back-end experience, right? Like, and there are many different types of AI. You have like generative AI, which is the content. So some of the systems, they generate text, code, or just insights overall. And I know the most powerful one is like ChatGPT. I know Gemini does that too. But again, we're seeing many different kinds of like AI tools. And I might have to send this reference to Connie Love so she can share with you guys. But there's this new tool, and I'm not sure how many of you guys know of this tool, but it's called Mythos by Anthropics. And it's not yet available to the public because of how powerful it is. And the reason for me even saying that is because like they put it in a sandbox, and as they put it in the sandbox, they prompted it and they said, okay, so overall like it's programmed to understand softwares, but to the depth of softwares. So this tool that we're using right now is like um Zoom, right? But there's a way to like develop Zoom. And that's where machine learning comes in. So it's learning patterns and recognition. Hence, once it does that, then it becomes something that just can predict things, but in a way that it's programmed. So, let's say, for instance, as I'm talking about Zoom, right? It's programmed, and the patterns is just like, okay, someone joins the call, and we know they're here to for a specific meeting because we already like pre-scheduled the meeting. And now we have this input of, okay, it's gonna transcribe, it's gonna do this, you can mute, and so on and so forth. So, the tool that I'm talking about called Mythos, because it understands software to its depth, it's able to exploit it, but also it's able to recognize vulnerabilities within it. So the experiment they conducted was, all right, let's put this in a sandbox and just think of the biggest company you can think of, like whether it's like Google or like Microsoft. You then tell it, because it's inside that sandbox and it understands the system or it understands software. It was asked to like generate some vulnerabilities related to this specific tool or this specific software, and it generates it, and then it was then further prompted to say, oh, so can you exploit these vulnerabilities and get yourself out? And it did just that, right? But again, the good part is that they recognized the dangers of this tool, and it was simply like, I don't it's not shut down. They're introducing some other thing um that is a lot more safe. But again, they're still talking to like companies like Google and Microsoft. Um, ChatGPT in a way as well. Because I mean they're godfather of AI, I think, like Google. So I mean, just keeping in mind where AI is going, I think that should even give you the mindset of how to tap into be more productive using AI in a more productive way within cybersecurity. And that's what I have to kind of do right now. I kind of have to like keep myself alert as to, okay, what are the new informations coming in regarding like AI? And again, these tools are collecting data. They have so much data inside of them for like a tool to be able to predict the software. And it's not even specifically uh a specific software. It's just the idea and like the concept of softwares in general, like the things that brings together software, like the things you can predict and be like, okay, this is how to build a software. Kind of like the things that you might learn at Blossom Africa, Harvard, or and so on, and like all these curriculums, you know. Yeah, so I did kind of touch on this, right? But again, I want to relate it to like data, stuff like that. So, because data is used to train these models, again, you just have to keep in mind how you're using these models, right? So you don't want to input something that Blossom Africa doesn't want you to like expose to the rest of the world because maybe it's just like not accessible to the public, and it could just be like you're working on a project and you were given that information, right? And you want to solve your problem so quickly, you're like, okay, let me just put this into like ChatGPT so it can solve my problem and then I can submit the work. You know, it's nice to keep in mind that it's collecting data for sure, whether they say it is or it isn't, unless you're specifically working with a tier that says, okay, you are on in hold of your own data. And these are like the agreements that you sign on to. So in a way, I think just keep that in mind as you're working with these tools. Um, and I did touch on this a little bit, but to be specific or precise, I would say, some things you do not want to give to AI, um, relating to like data, right? You don't want to give it credentials like your email, username, password, API keys, internal configurations, right? You don't want to type into ChatGPT and be like, oh, like I just configured this tool to not allow the system in, and per the system it has this person and this person. Like you're being so detailed to the point where like now it's collecting so much data. Internal configurations, sensitive data sets, reports, unpublished research, customer data. Like these are things you might not want to put inside of an AI tool, right? And reason being is that if we're just thinking of like the worst things worse, let's say right now they're telling us, ChatGPT, whomever, Gemini, they're telling us, well, um, your data is secure with us because we are going by regulations within America and like whichever country, you know, like Canada or and so on and so forth. But you can't trust them because again, I'm a cybersecurity analyst. At times I'm overwhelmed and I could miss something, right? And the security engineer, I have him on my side. Like he's the one configuring like most of like the other tools that someone inside internally can bypass. So again, we're all humans. But if you just think of worst things comes worse, ChatGPT, the people that are engineering their stuff or the persons in charge of security, like we're people, we can make mistakes. So if a mistake happens where they get hacked and sensitive data is like released, now not only are you in jeopardy because maybe you shared your social security, and again, social security is used for many things. Someone can take out a loan on your social security. Um, just because they have your social security, they can go into the dark webs, input that, and then they'll find your name, your address, and so on. And now you're in debt however much, right? And on the other hand, it could just be like your company. Now data is out there because you shared a research or some reports to ChatGPT, and now all the data is like exposed, and who knows what they want to do with it, right? So again, if you just keep that in mind, it will help you know how to engage with these tools. And I cannot like summarize it because there's so many tools, and it depends on your day-to-day, like what you encounter on your daily job, right? Or maybe on your um educate what your studies, yeah. So I think you have to like just take in this information and personalize it as to like how it makes sense for you towards like your interaction with like data and AI. um And this again is just going to just give you like some guidance on like how to use AI safely, right? So just making sure you're removing identifiers. Again, I specifically related to Social Security because there are many people that their Social Security has been stolen. So some people have just now been collecting like money from the government because like they just have the Social Security and they were able to get the rest of their information just by having their Social Security. um Use a sample or mock data, and that could just look in a way as like, okay, you're not giving it the actual information, you're giving it like some kind of template that you've like put on the side, and then you're using your mind to fill in the blanks. um Generalizing problems, and this is just like being so detailed as to like who works with who, why they work with them, what they're giving to each other, and how it's used, kind of thing. And just overall following company policy. And I'm pretty sure like most companies have policies as to data security. I really hope they do. Because if they don't, I mean, overall, people are just there to do their jobs. They're not concerned about how how to protect the company because that's the company's job, right? But again, I specifically do this mostly because I'm in a cybersecurity field, but also I'm like kind of educating myself to gain more authority in my field. Um, because it helps me with like the next job and the next job and the next job and the next job, right? Because all this information I'm gaining, I'm like, oh, I can like give it back to the company itself, and they now see value in you. And so again, that this can also be very beneficial for you to even like surpass your competition. Let's say you're applying for a job, right? Like you have this information that would even help them protect themselves more than they even are. Like some information they don't even know, like because you've equipped yourself with the tools, like you're telling them things that they want to hear. In a sense, you're basically saying, I'm really good at my job and I take extra measures to be sure that I'm safe. That way, like I wouldn't even bring any problems to you guys, you know? So going towards like the cybersecurity mindset. See, as a cybersecurity professional, you will always have to keep in mind that like you're the first line of defense in security, IT, wherever it is. Like you're the like that's just a mindset you have to keep in mind because again, you're dealing with like so many information, to the point where it's not even just like trying to keep the company secure. You start to develop this instinct as to like, whoa, like wow, like what about my personal information? What company has my information that has like done this, has done that, you know? So in a way, like most companies that train and educate their staff, which I love how like Blossom Africa is like having this session with all of us, right? It's not only to just help you, all of you kind of like, remain cognizant on what's happening within like AI, but also as data professionals, you also have the tools to like um ele pivot within your industry because again, technology is going to keep changing and changing and changing. But as long as you have this information, you're able to like protect yourself and you're going to protect others because the instinct just comes into your mind like, oh, maybe you shouldn't do that. Or maybe, like those mental nudges that you just throw out and you just probably tell your colleague or, your boss or your professor or whatever is like, oh, no, but I learned it this way. Maybe you should try this and stuff like that, you know? So in a way, it's like you are the first line of defense. Like if you just think of it like that, you're able to succeed no matter what, like no matter what, because you're gonna take in that instinct is gonna grow inside of you to want to learn and like stay on trend as to like what's coming in, what new tools are out. Like even if like let's say um my university has not adopted Mythos, although they're working with Claude. They've not adopted Mythos just yet because the tool is just too powerful. Like like it can crash any system right now. and the design is crazy. But again, like I think most of it is just the risk. I'm sure it's not just for us, but it's for them too, because they might get sued. Because why are you hacking people's personal information, you know? Unless maybe they can like erase their steps, then, but still, it's not ethical. So to just conclude the entire presentation, I think again, I don't really want to tell you guys what to do because we're all like, adults here. But overall, some of the techniques that I use is just making sure that like I'm aware of the data that I'm handling. I'm thinking before I'm sharing or uploading. I tend to use AI responsibly. And also, it's just making sure that like I'm protecting myself, which in turn helps me like take the initiative to like protect my organization. And last but not least, I'm gonna share this with all of you guys um through Connie Love, but feel free to reach out to me. I'll share my information with Connie Love. And that's all for me, guys. So if you have any question, you want to like unmute yourself or, put it in the chats, I'm here. Thank you very much. Of course, of course. I think Connie Love should be here. Um, oh, you were raising your hand, Barcicia Oku. I mean, if you guys want to unmute, it's cool. I'll send you my email. HM. I put my email in the chat, so if you guys want to like reach out or like connect, I'll put my LinkedIn here too. If you guys want to talk more, because I think the conversation never ends, but also it depends on like, the field you want to be in. Because again, data professionals, you can be in any field. For me, I
Uh,
didn't, hi, Connie
how
Love.
I think
Yeah,
Patricia had a hand up.
yeah, I think so too.
Mm. Please unmute and speak, eh?
Oh,
Patricia.
sorry. No, no, no. It was I was like reacting to what she said, and I mistakenly
Okay,
raised
okay.
my hand. But I've really enjoyed this session. I've actually learned a lot. I've learned a lot. It's been really, really, it's like been an eye opener. So thank you.
Yeah,
Mm, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Okay. I think I've also learned a lot. The part where you say we shouldn't give our emails to AI and our passwords. Some of us, we are at fault. I don't know why we do that, but we are just testing the AI. I don't know what we are at fault. I'm like, hey, well, I'm
I
exposing
mean,
myself.
I think when I started using AI too, like I had to learn the hard way.
Mhm.
Because I started doing research only because the university put out policies and like all these things. So in a way, it's like, oh, mm. So if I'm doing this with my own personal information and I'm doing this with their information, who knows what the system is doing because they were really enforcing it. They're like, guys, if we find out something, like you might be in legal problems. And that can look like you even paying over $500,000 for your life because it looks malicious. So again, I think it depends on the company you're working with and the policies that they have put out, right? But also, I think for your own sake, I think in America right now, for me, I don't want to put in any address or emails or anything because I mean, man, there are many tools out there, and next thing you know, someone is buying a house in your name. So, yeah.
Okay. Like Batisha said, it's been an eye-opener. Please, does anybody have any question, anything they want to add on to? I see Bernard is on the call. Bernard, is there anything you want to ask or share? Please, if you have a question, Atta, do you want to say something? Can you raise a hand and you'll be given the opportunity to speak? Okay, I see a hand up. Whose hand is up? Oh, okay, Osman, please unmute and speak.
Hi, Colonel. Good evening. This is Dr. Mohammed. I'm with Osman, so I'm going to use his laptop to answer my question.
Okay.
All right. So thank you so much for this insightful presentation and learning. I'm so curious to find out as data professionals, um, how can we work with AI without letting AI taking um conscious of our critical thinking and in terms of building insight into data. But we're living in an era whereby AI can simply do things or help us to be able to be more effective and efficient. So how can we manage with AI, not to let it take away of our critical thinking and intelligence and also at insight in terms of data storytelling? Thank you.
Okay, that was a great question, by the way. So, in a way, I think you just have to keep in mind that, like, the more you give AI, the more it's using that information to better itself. Because again, the tool needs someone to use it. That way, it can make money, right? Okay. So, outside of us understanding that, if we're trying to like give ourselves like a lot more like critical thinking. That's where I kind of explained in the presentation as to giving it templates, right? Because again, if you're putting all these components together to say, well, I don't want to give it all these sensitive information. I want it to translate a report for me and so on and so forth. The way you gain authority as a data professional is by knowing what you're doing. So well, it depends on like the level you're at. But again, I think in order for you to even get to like a senior level, you need to have that critical thinking because to be at a senior level, you need to be able to like explain things to stakeholders, directors, CEOs, and all of that, all those positions, right? The high level positions. So these people, they don't even interact with data, or if they do, it's probably like someone telling them what they're looking at. So again, you kind of need to look, I guess that's just where your perspective changes on how you look at AI. So instead of looking at it as like, oh, well, all my problems are solved. I'm just gonna give it these things. It's gonna do all the work for me, blah blah. You now need to change the way you use it, change your perspective on how to use it. All right, so you're just gonna, the way I use it is like the way I've changed my perspective on how to use it is that I prompted to say, hey, um, so interacting with it a little bit, right? To say, okay, like I'm having this issue, I want to solve this problem immediately. How can you help? And it's relating to this, and that. So again, it's giving me feedbacks. This is and that, this and that. So it's helping you think very fast, very fast. That's how I use it to like help you think very quickly. So in a way, it's giving you answers on a very consistent like immediate way, right? And you are the only one that holds that data. So in a way, you're just thinking like, okay, like maybe I can try this, maybe I can try that, maybe I can try this. And the goal is not to share things with it that might get you in trouble and the company in trouble, right? So you really have to just think of, okay, I have to prompt it in a way that would like give me the fastest solution to solve my problem. So now you see, like, you're actually controlling it instead of it controlling you. Because the whole point is just understanding it's there to solve a problem. You're not seeing it as a problem solver and not like someone that's just controlling your life or someone that's just like there to just do whatever it is that like you need in the moment, that you're just giving it anything, right? So a perfect example would be um so I was in this program. Again, let me just explain like most of these universities because some of their money comes from um governmental funding. So there are many different projects that you're going to be put in, right? So one of it was like a project I was put in randomly, and I was just like, uh-oh, like it requires a lot of reading. I don't know what to do, and so on and so forth. So in a way, I was just interacting with it and just saying, oh, okay, like, do you know this company? Do you know what they do? And in a way, it's gonna have like information about the company as long as there's some public information about the company. So I'm getting information about it. That way, like when I'm reading whatever the pages are, and the pages were about like 5 pages, but it was a lot of information that like I couldn't understand the entire company fully, just in the amount of time I'm gonna read it, right? I'm getting information as to like what they need me to do, but I'm not understanding what they are. So I'm like, okay, tell me a little bit more about the company. Can you like give me what they do, how they do it? And most of it is making sense because now I'm interacting with the organization and it's like, oh, okay, so they have like workshops, like they give cohorts, they teach different like government scientific governmental organizations how to like remain secure per like the cybersecurity sector and so on and so forth. So all these information, like in as much as I was told in an orientation, I wasn't grabbing the information I needed to help me per my job. So that information helped me. And now I'm like, okay, like what would you recommend for me to do? Because this is what they're asking of me. So again, you're interacting of it like as if it's your colleague, your friend, and so on and so forth. So it helped me solve the problem because now I'm like, okay, like maybe I can take this angle, I can take this, like, I can do this, I can do that. Because now you're just left with um depends on your company, right? Like because you're only left with like different many options, as many options as you can. For me, I can't share this specific information to ChatGPT because it's against the policy completely. But what I can do is gain public information that it has. But if your company just allows you to, just completely download and pour that like information there and it just solves the problem for you, fine. I mean, you can do that. But right. But to answer your question, if you want to remain critical thinking, you need to understand that like you are the person controlling the tool. So you need to understand how you use the tool, right? Because the tool is going to do any and everything. And if you just accept that and you just take it as like, okay, well, it's gonna tell me where to have breakfast tomorrow. It's gonna tell me, what do you want? Like in this moment, what do you want? And now that you have information as to like what it takes to solve the problem of your work, how can you use it to solve that problem? I hope that makes sense. You can answer.
Osman, I see that your hand is up again. Do you want to ask another question?
Yeah, I just want to add up to what she said. I really like the answer and thank you very much for the presentation. And as you said, yesterday I was fortunate enough to attend a tech event, and in all that you said, they just gave it to us in a single line. That's about we shouldn't outsource our thinking to AI. That we shouldn't outsource our thinking to AI. You should own it and know what you're actually looking for. That's just what I want to add. Thank you very much.
I think you simplified what I was trying to say. I have
Yes.
to really be precise because of the people I work with.
So Atta has a question. He says that if you had to recommend, if you had to recommend one key practice every data professional should adopt immediately, what would it be?
Um, in a way, I think most data professionals should understand machine learning overall, but also just consistently educating yourself on like artificial intelligence, which I mean, artificial intelligence starts from machine learning. So maybe you can combine the both, the two components, right? But really, I think as a data professional, because I think being a data professional is going to be like a key component to remain in the industry, right? But again, the industry meaning like technology, right? The industry also requires you pivoting and adapting to new things coming out because people want to make their lives easy. So in a way, my answer would just be like um consistently following trends within the technology sector, doing your best to understand like the back ends of like machine learning. Because I mean, for me, like handling tools, I'm a cybersecurity professional. So in a way, it's like, in as much as I don't deal with like Python, I look at it and I'm like, okay, this engineer is working with this tool. I need to learn how to like help them remain safe and so on and so forth, right? So it really just depends on your position and where you want to go, per your career. But those are the three components that I believe is very crucial to just elevating your skills, your pay, your position, right? Like understanding the back end, such as like machine learning, um, following trends that are coming in within like your field, like as a data professional, and also like following AI, like wherever it goes, because that's what's happening right now. AI is definitely like one thing that's taken over, and in a way, it might just create something that every data professional might need to use to sustain their job. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Hawa. Bernard, I see that your hand is up. Please go ahead.
Yeah. I hope I'm audible.
Yeah.
Yes, you are.
Okay, okay. Great submission, Hawa. I think it was a very detailed yet brief presentation. You did touch on some pretty important things that I think is very laudable and also things that people can learn from. And myself, I'm a cybersecurity uh, expert, so I make time to join anything relating to cybersecurity, right? Because this learning curve is a never-ending one. You know what I mean? When it comes to, let's say, data analytics, you know, there are tools coming up all the time. You have to learn new tools. When it comes to cybersecurity, it's not just about the tools. It's a whole different dimension that you have to, constantly be keeping yourself up to speed about what is happening in the industry, the kind of attacks that is coming up, how to defend yourself, how to protect yourself, and all that. So I think this is very recommendable. Also, to add up to the topic of AI, I think there's one thing that we all should try to, be informed about. I think you have to ask yourself anytime that you are prompting AI to do a particular task for you, whatever that you are asking AI to do for you, will you be comfortable will you be comfortable that when it comes out, will you be okay with it? It's one thing that you always have to ask yourself. So if you are putting out your medical records in a prompt, trying to ask AI to maybe explain maybe a medical report or a lab test or whatever for you, I think you should ask yourself, in case this information gets out, will I be comfortable with it? Is this something that I will actually publicly disclose to people? Because the risk is that maybe the company offering the AI tool or the AI solution may not be the ones to leak it. But here lies the case that, I think recently, Anthropic, there was a whole brouhaha about the fact that um, I think you mentioned Mythos. They mentioned that there was a leak, right? And Claude and its source code and all those things. I don't know what happened, but I think it got exposed. So here lies the case that imagine that AI company, right? It's getting hacked. And all the information that you submitted to this AI company, it gets out. You ask yourself, will you be okay with it? So this is how you have to position yourself in terms of security when you are using AI, because AI is a tool, as Howard rightly captured it, is a tool. So the fact that you are using the tool, you have to consider the ethical reasoning and also the security aspect of using the tool. Right. I always say this, that make sure that you keep your personal identifiable information out of AI's business or AI's world. Right. Because every now and then, this information that you submit to AI, somebody can use to exploit you. Right. In the cybersecurity and about your target before you launch an attack. Imagine that all these things that you have submitted to AI, doing reconnaissance or gathering information about you to hack you would be very, very easy. You have your emails there, you have your passwords there, you have all those sensitive information about you. Your bank account details are there. Even like every single thing is there. The person will not even have to suffer going to scroll through the web trying to get access to information which you have, made it available to these companies. So I think it's very much important that we always, try to put the security considerations in our minds anytime that we are prompting AI. Thank you very much. This is what I wanted to add.
Yeah, I think it's valid. Appreciate you, Bernard. That was really good stuff.
Okay, thank you. Would you want to say something to what Bernard said, or it's okay?
No, I think it's valid. Like most of like the things that you see as a cybersecurity analyst is mostly what he said. And I think he
Okay.
basically said that he also is in the field of cybersecurity, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it kind of aligned with what I was really preaching. So appreciate you,
All
Bernard.
right.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Bernard. I see a few questions in the comment section, but since Gideon's hand is up, we'll take Gideon's question, and after that, we read the questions in the comment section.
Hello.
Okay,
Can you hear
Gideon.
me? Can you
Yes,
hear me?
please. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Hawa, and thank you very much for your presentation. Uh, I don't know if this might be a suggestion or maybe this is a question, but as you were speaking and you were presenting, and I realized that everything has to do with confidentiality in terms of how business, in terms of business information. So I'm thinking of why don't you said you work with the government? So why don't government agencies have their own personal AI systems built from scratch to handle their internal systems? Because I think that would better help them not expose their information to third parties. That is that is what I'm thinking. Yeah. So would that be a question or a suggestion? Yeah.
No, that's a good question, I think. Okay, so just to even confirm, I work for a university which is private. So I don't know if you guys know Carnegie Mellon University. So think of Carnegie Mellon. I don't know. There are many universities out here. So there's Carnegie Mellon University, there's University of Pittsburgh, there's Penn State, and if you're familiar with Harvard, so on. So universities like Harvard or MIT, which I think Blossom Africa collaborated with um Harvard. That's how I really found Blossom Africa, because I was doing my research and like something came up from Harvard. But in a way, like most of these like organizations, the government, which has a sector called the National Science Foundation, has gives the money to universities and say, hey, you guys have like presented this project and we want to fund it. But again, we are the ones funding it as the National Science Foundation, right? So I think in a way your question being that why doesn't the government themselves like create their own AI system? There are many sectors in the government itself. You can't just like it depends on the country, I think. But in America, I don't even think there's like one sector that just says, "Oh, this is us." But more so, there are many divisions that says the money's here, we're putting it here. This money is here, we're taking it here because it just all depends on like what they prioritize and what the foundation is of the country, right? And that could look like in a way as to, again, MIT, Carnegie Mellon, Harvard, Berkeley, so on and so forth. We are looking at, mm, well, they teach AI, whether it's AI, the foundations of AI, cybersecurity and AI, much more. That, in a way, they're understanding what AI is, they're seeing the capabilities of AI, but they're not sure where to invest that money towards when it comes to AI, right? Because it's just like, oh, like this is what people are doing with AI. This is what's happening. This is what's happening. And it all has like a contribution of like many minds, many people that have authority as to like, and you're gonna sit in meetings that just looks like, oh, this person does not agree. This person is saying, but it's going to do this. But this person is saying, oh, like, like it's so many things occurring. But again, my company, low key, my organization is talking about, oh, like, what if we create something that can summarize our Gmail conversations or something that like acts as like Google Gemini that, like you can transfer this into this and this into that. But again, it's just conversations being had, but it has to be submitted through someone, and that person would be like, okay, this is valid. I know the way they think. Hence, if we present it in this way, they'll just say yes. So like you have to go through many, many people and prove as to like why this should be, because they have all these like teachings, and I mean it's just a long story, in fact. Yeah. Gideon?
So basically, from your explanation, meaning that um, there are priorities. Maybe they base their decisions based on priorities, and you have to really explain so well for them to understand the reasons they should take these measures. If I
Yeah.
get that,
Yeah, and that's just because of where the money's going. Like they need to fund a lot of things. And so it's just like me and you, right? Like if I have money in my pocket and you have money in your pocket and you're like, "Oh, why should I give you my money?" Someone has to justify the reason why I'm giving you money to go and buy this thing in a way. Yeah.
okay, okay, thank you.
Yeah. Uh, I think it's Atta next, right?
We are way we've gone beyond our time. Please give me a minute. Let me read Kwame's question and then we'll take yours. So Kwame says, "Hi, how great presentation. I've got terrible reception, so you may have addressed this and I probably missed it." So his question is, if a data scientist wants to get certified in cybersecurity essentials, what path should they take?
Okay, so first of all, I just need to know, do you still want to be a data professional and you want to add some kind of cybersecurity aspects to your career? Or are you wanting to like hold your data professionalism and then transition into cybersecurity? And in a way, I can answer both, right? Like coming into cybersecurity with your knowledge. Um, I would just say like that knowledge is very essential only because like you already have the concept of like the majority of things, because most of cybersecurity is just dealing like understanding the foundation is like, okay, you're dealing with data and that's the most important things. And if you have that understanding, you know that like, okay, there's ethics that goes into a lot of things, which is going to make it very easy for you to, transition into cybersecurity. So again, if you're wanting to transition to cybersecurity, I would just recommend like certifications. And certifications can be like Security Plus, CISSP, or some other like certifications that Google and Microsoft provide, or wherever you want to be a professional in, because cybersecurity has many sectors. You can be a vulnerability manager. You can be an IAM analyst. An IAM is just like you go into these tools and you're like a professional at like what privilege this person needs and what privilege this person doesn't need, so on and so forth. You're also like overall, I would just say if you're a security engineer, that entails a lot of things because you're dealing with so many different tools, which then differentiates your value, right? So it's hard to answer that question because it depends on like what specifically you want to transition into. And it can look however it wants to look depending on the person. But overall, I would say like certifications help when you're putting in applications, but also when you're interacting with colleagues, because colleagues will say, "Oh, like, what do you do like inside? What have you done in cybersecurity?" And then you can show them, "Well, I'm interested in this, and I took the certification, understanding this." And one certification you might want to take now is like they're giving AI and security certifications, and you can find that on Google, depending on like or you can interact with like ChatGPT and say, "Oh, like I want to go towards this direction. What certification would you recommend?" So, yeah.
Thank you, Howard. Ata, I saw
Sorry.
your question, but
Can I
since
can I can I can I add up and maybe give more clarity to Kwame's question, if that's
all
fine?
right, all right.
Okay. So Kwame, so your question was about the pathway for data people in data when they want to branch into cybersecurity, or let's say when they want to add security to the work that they do. So my advice for data professionals is, because you already have a solid foundation with data. In your case, you mentioned data scientists to be precise. So I want to understand that as a data scientist, you already do maybe machine learning and all those things. And because you have keen eye for data, I think the easiest route to branch into cybersecurity is when you do cybersecurity, like a security analyst or a cybersecurity analyst, right? So your own is to detect attack, analyze attack, and also hunt for threats and all that. I think somebody's, yeah, thank you. So your own is to investigate, detect attack, and provide remediation, right? And I think it's something that will be quite transitioning into that. It will be quite comfortable because you already deal with data. With somebody who doesn't have a keen eye for data, sometimes it becomes a little boring because you will be faced with a lot of repetitive tasks, like trying to watch through maybe a dashboard or a log file, trying to detect what has gone wrong, right? It's like you monitoring. You see the way that people monitor CCTV cameras. You are monitoring, you are investigating, that kind of vibe. So I think this is something that you can look into. Security analyst. When you go online, you can just search for security analyst certifications. You can get, I think, Howard did mention Security Plus from CompTIA. You can look into that. You can look into CompTIA Cybersecurity Analyst Plus. That's also a good certification. So I think this will be a starting point for you. Then maybe you can think about fully, transitioning into a cybersecurity professional, but this will be a great starting point for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bernard, for adding up. Ata, I see your hand up. Since I saw your question, but since your hand is up, I suggest that you just go ahead with it. So kindly unmute and speak.
All right, thank you very much. So I just wanted to initially question their AI. So when you read a bit into AI security, what that means that it's like a cybersecurity part of AI. So we are building more of AI systems, but then how do we protect them? You see that one of the debates there is that now should every government now begin to build their own AI system? And when you consider the risks that some of these researchers are discussing in some of the articles they are sharing out there, you realize that it's both yes and then no, because the risk itself is quite a bit. So for instance, if you look at what Anthropic begin to argue with the US government, they want to own AI and then use it to just have public surveillance and then just be monitoring mass surveillance. So realize that if you give AI to a government, or if you give a government the power to have that powerful AI model, you can imagine what some of these governments can do, especially if you have powerful nations and powerful countries. They can just misuse it in their own political agenda. So right now, if you look at what the AI industries are doing, I think all the best AI models are being built by private institutions. I don't think any government is able to catch up with what these guys are doing. So in the future, what we don't also want to happen is that every government is trying to build their own AI. So now what will happen is that there will be a kind of race. So everybody's trying to deploy on time, deploy the best AI model. And if we go at that speed, what will happen is that now safety will not become a concern. Now nobody will be looking into the weaknesses, the best practices, and what will happen is that we will end up starting implementing this AI into our systems, our organizations, and imagine AI running a health system. What if the AI mistakenly make a bad decision and then kill somebody in the hospital bed? Now, who do you now begin to blame? Do you blame the AI or you blame the government? You see, so I think there is a lot of compliance work that needs to be done, and then kind of regulatory framework that we need to get these things to get governments to follow, so that going forward, if we have to get to that point, we'll be able to have a better AI model. So to what my brother Bernard also add, I think if anybody is also interested in cybersecurity, I think becoming a security operation was what they call SOC. Yes, yes, it's also a very good field you can actually look into. I remember after my data analytics course, I began to use my skills in analyzing threats and then analyzing dashboard, and it was very impactful. So we can also look into SOC and then build some kind of skill also at that level. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Atta. Hawa, over to you. Do you have any final words you want to add, you want to say?
I think I can like add to what he said and probably just finish there. But overall, I think like everyone has just been great, and I appreciate all the questions you guys have been asking. Um, but really, Atta, I think yes, with like government, probably like starting their own like AI systems. I think they have as much information as they can to even like create something worse than mythos, you know? But I don't think the people will allow it. And also the thing about, I don't know how it is in any other country besides like being in the US, is like regardless of what you think you can do as a government, you still have to go through the government because of the rules that they created in the freaking in the system, you know? So in a way, they have to go through like regulations and stuff like that, but they have as much information as they need to like get it started. But again, everyone needs to come and put their hands together and be like, okay, we agree, we want to create this thing. So just think of like the National Science Foundation, and it's funded so many different projects with like different universities, right? So gathering all that information, you can create like the most essential AI tool ever. And it just takes them saying, oh, well, if you're part of this, if we're funding you, give us all the data that you have, that you've collected from like the projects that you've created. So there's access, which is for like researchers. There's trusted CI, which is like to help cybersecurity within the um, science organizations in the government. Um, and much more like the supercomputing centers, and really is just dealing with like high performance computers, right? That do like extreme things depending on its design. So in a way, I think you're definitely right. Yet it's still the conversation needs to be had because people are afraid of what it can do. So that's the most um that's the biggest contribution to like the avoidance as to why it's not happened yet, right? Because it's either they create their own or they use other third parties, which some third parties have proven to like solve the solution there for them. But again, I just think if they're going to create an AI system, it's probably going to be specifically for them, like for them to solve their problem and not just like individual problems such as like, oh, like, can you translate this information from like this email that I got? Or it's not going to be something so simple like, and you have something like Grok, which is owned by like Elon Musk, and in a way it's like supposed to be like so it's supposed to be a replication of ChatGPT, but it's also designed differently because the response you're going to get is just something completely different. So again, like we're seeing AI, and I think everyone here is on the right path. I'm not even gonna lie. Everyone here is on the right path because like as long as you're having the conversation, you're putting your mind there, you're going to be ahead of anyone that's not even here. Like you're going to be ahead of like people that have like not even taken AI seriously. It's kind of like when let's say when technology started and let's say software engineering or these other things that now pays about like $600,000 were not taken seriously. Now people are like, oh my God, I need to go to school to be a software engineer, right? Next thing you know, someone is going to go to school just specifically to be like an AI or machine learning professional, which can include like data analytics, data science, and all these things. So in a way, you have your own like direction, you're a data professional, but it's up to you to be like, okay, I see where this thing is heading towards. How can I make the most of like what I already know? And then you can go from there, right? Because again, it's not going to stop, like Atta said, which we know they will implement their own like AI tool. Come on, it's the government. They control most of the things. Like, why do we even have a social security? It's some kind of control to just know, oh, what are you doing with your life? Where is this going? Like all these other things, just to make sure they know, oh, this is what the citizen is doing. So if they have all that information, we don't like it's beyond comprehension as to what they're capable of. I think they're just being vigilant because of the rules also apply to them, like the amendments and the bills that they passed, like you actually have to abide by them, right? Different countries can probably let you pass, but like in America, you're having to deal with like people that are just like you, and that just means people that are just as like um I don't want to say the word selfish, but in a way, it's just like, let's say like Democrat, Republicans, they all think alike. So if the party inside the um, courtroom is that specific party or the opposite party, they're like, yeah, you're not gonna get over this. You have to abide by these rules because we know what you've done before, and so on and so forth. So in a way, it's like, it's so many regulations. People are putting their hands in it, and man, overall, like I'm sure it's going to happen, but in a way, the rules must like the process and the system aligns, so it has to go through this kind of structure. And I mean, that being said, like you guys are just great, like I love the conversations being had. even through the chat and everything. I think everyone here just has like promising traits that knows where they want to go, which in turn explains why we're all here having this conversation, right? And I appreciate Blossom Africa for hosting me, and shout out Connie Love for, doing this, and everyone that asked questions. And overall, I mean, the conversation doesn't end, right? Because like technology is always evolving. Outside of Mythos being like the most dangerous threat right now, I'm pretty sure there's something that's gonna come out that someone's working on that we don't even know. Because right now my friend is talking to me about like an AI project that he's building to like eliminate data centers within just the city alone, like Pittsburgh. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like you're trying to make everything virtual and just remove all these like boxes. I'm like, wow, like these things are just like in people's minds. It's not even online or anything. Like, so if you're not close to them, you don't even know what people are doing regarding AI? So it's kind of nice to just have this conversation and help each other out to see how far we can keep going with the conversation and helping ourselves evolve in the sector of technology. And thank you very much again, Connie Love, for sure.
Thank you, thank you so much, Howard. Thank you, Bernard. Thank you, Atta. I can't mention everybody's name on the call. Thank you, Kwame. Thank you so much for making time to Patricia. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you so much, Howard, for your time and your energy and effort into preparing the slides to come and impact us. We are so, so, so grateful. Thank you for everybody. Thank you for making time to join the call. We hope that we've learned a few things. And I think for me, the most important thing is that I shouldn't give my passwords and other private information to AI, and that's been an eye opener for me. Thank you so much for making time to join the call. And for Master Blossom, thank you, Hawa, and have a good night, everybody. Bye.